Welcome to the Anxious Love Coach podcast, the place to be to create meaningful, conscious, secure, long-term partnerships. Here we talk relationship anxiety and creating healthy dynamics with your partners so that you can experience that secure, loving connection where you both feel committed and confident. My name is Natalie Kennedy and I'm your host. I'm a relationship anxiety coach and meditation teacher. I've had a practice for 9 years working with clients battling anxiety. And after experiencing an extraordinary shift in my own healing relative to relationships, now work to combine my personal experience as well as my training to help others trust themselves within relationship. I've been to the edge and back with my partner for my own relationship anxiety and have come out the other side, feeling consistently blessed and at ease in my partnership. I want to pass the tools I've learned along to you to help you trust yourself in relationships and also create magnetic dynamics with your partner. Our partners are our mirrors designed for our expansion, and the challenges exist generally to wake us up to ourselves, not destroy our beautiful partnerships. I believe most mainstream relationship advice today can be a huge source of anxiety and dissatisfaction. So let's jump in and normalize the challenges that we go through, call out the limitations of today's messages about love without being old-fashioned, and awaken our intuition and wisdom. If you haven't yet, be sure to join our communities over on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Anxious Love Coach. You can also request a 30-minute relationship anxiety assessment with either me or my co-coach Sheridan for one-on-ones, or join one of our group programs over on my website at www.anxiouslovecoach.com. I've also got a wonderful relationship anxiety meditation for you as thanks for subscribing to my email list. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Hello there, my friend. Welcome back to the Anxious Love Coach podcast. This is Natalie, your host, and I'm very excited about our episode today. I have on a really special guest who is also one of my very, very best friends. You guys have never met her before, and it's going to be a really fun episode. As you know, in season 2, we are covering a lot more eros and polarity, and so I'm kind of expanding on topics that I have not really touched before. So, a lot of our season 1 stuff was working through fear and trauma and anxiety. And season 2 is a lot more about play and seduction and eros and polarity and how to increase attraction in your healthy partnership. So we're expanding and we're adding polarity to the mix. And one of my best friends is coming on today. Her name is Kate Colley. And we are going to be discussing how to increase your polarity in your partnership, or really whoever you're dating, through body language. So this is going to be really, really juicy. I'm really excited to have her on. She's a hypnotherapist / body language expert. She also knows facial reading, which is super cool, but we're not going to cover that because this is podcast today. And there'd be a lot of nuance to cover through facial expression. So a couple really, really quick announcements. I already let my email, this is just kind of a side note, but I already let my email list know and Instagram know, but you will be hearing a lot more from me here on the podcast as I am transitioning slowly off Instagram. And if you want to know my reasons for that, I haven't posted them, and maybe I will later. Because my friend Kate is literally, I am in her apartment. We have set up 2 glasses of wine, and I'm not going to do a whole podcast on why I quit Instagram at her house. But I just wanted to let you know that. And if you're a loyal podcast listener, thank you so much for being a subscriber. Thanks for listening. And I'll also be more on YouTube, TikTok, and my email list. I literally love sending out love letters to my email. So make sure you're subscribed. You can go to my website. Anyway, hi, Katie.
Hi. I'm so happy to do this.
I'm like holding your hand.
I know.
Oh my God. We were going to do a YouTube, you guys, but the lighting was weird. And it's 7:23 p.m. and we were like, didn't want to fuss over the lighting and be in fancy clothes. So this is what we get. Katie has been, we both met at Institute for Integrative Nutrition back when we were super into like health and fitness.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, I think that nutrition eventually leads you to sex. I really do. Because nutrition leads you to noticing how not just food is nutrition, but like who you're dating is nutrition, and what you're consuming on social media is nutrition, and like how your family environment and your home environment is nutrition. And then you start looking at trauma. And once you start looking at trauma, then you go into like all this other holistic stuff. And then eventually you get to sex. So here we are.
It all leads to sex.
It all really leads to sex.
It's a microcosm of life.
And so it's crazy how we met in nutrition, and like now we're both here talking about sex.
Yeah. We were like little munchkins in nutrition being like, we're going to be health coaches.
Yeah. And now we're here talking about sex. Go us.
Yes,
so
I know.
When we were trying to figure out what we were going to talk about today, I literally was like, well, you're like our body language expert, and I'm like getting into Eros. Why don't we talk about polarity through body language? And Katie's response, you guys, no joke. She said, I'm literally squirting right now. That's what she said. So
I'm not kidding. My vagina speaks to me.
When I say this episode is going to be juicy, you guys, that is what I mean. So because Kate, we're both professionals, but we're also literally best friends and have been for 6 years or something like that. So there will probably be a lot of giggling and unprofessional raunchiness. So just enjoy. But if you're willing, can you tell us a little bit about what you do and where your story?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Natalie said, I am a hypnotherapist. And so much of my practice, I actually started out working with women around healing their relationship with food, which ironically, like we said, it all leads to sex. The emotional root cause of having a disordered relationship with food is often related to sex, sexual trauma, any kind of trauma of the body, which in turn shuts down your receivership of pleasure.
Oh yeah, I can see how those would be connected.
Absolutely. And so if you have a limited capacity to receive pleasure through sex, then there's actually a part of your brain that looks for other things in your external environment to fill that void of pleasure, which is most readily food, because it's abundantly around us all the time.
And it doesn't ask anything of you.
No, it doesn't. Which is great.
It's very convenient.
It's a very convenient form of pleasure, but it's not necessarily a true pleasure, because it very quickly afterwards leads to, in a lot of people in terms of overeating, leads to guilt and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I got my start. And then I kept going. I became really fascinated with reprogramming the subconscious mind. The subconscious is basically any part of your mind, any part of your programming that you're not currently aware of. And so that led me into body language, into facial reading, micro expressions, cold reading, people reading, all of that kind of stuff, because people's body language and expressions reveal about 95% of what's going on in their subconscious that their conscious words don't reveal. Mm-hmm. And so in communication and in sex and in polarity and in all these things that we're talking about, body language plays this really, really huge role. And if you can master that even just a little bit, which I'm going to teach you the basics today so that you can become a master at it, you'll not only be able to use your body language to increase polarity, but, and here's the really cool part, is in relationship, you're able to read your partner's body language, which increases intimacy. And that can lead to polarity because it creates safety. And so anyway, so now what I do in my practice, I don't work as much in the realm of food anymore. I've actually transitioned now to working quite primarily with men and guiding them into their subconscious, into their emotional and physical and otherwise trauma so that they can heal and really step into this like powerful, masculine being that they really are. Like, I love this, guys. I get so excited. I get like spiritually turned on talking about it.
I get spiritually turned on listening to you.
Yeah, because I love witnessing men rise. Yeah. It's beautiful. And in order for them to rise, they need to be aware of their subconscious patterns. So that's a lot of what I do now.
That is so sexy. I also want to expand the conversation to include those of us who are not necessarily in heterosexual relationships, but maybe we have some people who are queer and the non-binary community. This can also be, like, if you're not necessarily a man, you can also learn how to increase your masculine energy, or you still have polarity in partnership. Actually, if we just look at the word polarity, a lot of people think it means masculine, feminine polarity, and it can mean that, but that's actually only one form of polarity. There's lots of forms of polarity. A mother and child has a polarity. It really just means contrast. So there's either conscious contrast or unconscious contrast. And contrast is actually where we create a dance. I was just talking to Katie this morning about this morning. I feel like I've been with you all day. It's been awesome.
Pretty much.
But I do tango. When you do the tango, you can't have two leads. Two people can't be leading a dance. It's like one person has to lead the dance and the other person follows the dance. You can have moments of switching, but in order to have a dance, you need to have contrast. And so to do masculine, feminine polarity is really just a study of contrast. So no matter kind of where you fall in your identity spectrum, we're going to use the words man and woman here to keep language simple. But just realize that if you are in a same-sex partnership, you can still create polarity. So just kind of apply that to yourself. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think you covered it all, but we all have masculine and feminine energies within us. And it's oftentimes in relationship, the wounded aspects of us are mirrored in polarity in the wounded aspects in our partners. And so what we want to talk about today in this podcast is increasing polarity in a healthy way, which requires you, in a lot of sense, to become aware and to become conscious of where those wounded aspects are inside of you. And then to actually, what we'll be talking about today is how to invite more play and more curiosity into those aspects of yourself and with your partner.
Yum. So good. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about how polarity is actually always happening. You're either aware of it or you're not. And you can have unconscious toxic polarity. That's where a lot of people are today. It's like there is polarity, but it's not conscious. People aren't consciously choosing this weird role they're playing, this wounded role they're playing. And that kind of forces your partner into their wounded role if they have one. Mm-hmm. And so now you've got this wounded pattern that plays out between two people. And we're going to kind of give you some tools to flip it today. I think I had a couple, I'm looking at my notes here. We had a couple of disclaimers that we wanted to cover, and Katie kind of touched on it already, you guys, which is that the strategies that we're going to teach you, I'm using the word strategy to imply that you can do this with an intention, but I would recommend doing it without an agenda. An intention and an agenda are two different things. An intention is I'm intending to show up in a specific way as a service to the partnership. Agenda says I need the outcome to look a certain way. And so, in a way, we're kind of teaching you the art of conscious manipulation. If you're wanting to evoke a certain side of your partner, like maybe when you first started dating your partner, they had this when Preston and I first started dating, he had this super sexy masculine energy. And then sometimes he would slip out of it. And then when I learned polarity, I was like, oh, perfect. Now I can manipulate him back into his masculine. And he could feel that and he would resist it. So, when you're doing polarity, you really want to do it as a gift to the partnership as opposed to something that you do to try to make somebody act a certain way. And then you're going to punish them if they don't show up that way. So really, there's no such thing as good or bad. There's just conscious and unconscious. But I just want to lay out that this is all about play. If it's not play, then it's something probably icky. So, and you were saying also, Katie, something about fight or flight. Can you cover that? Because you articulated it a lot better than I did.
Yes. And so, let me talk about fight or flight. And I also, one of my favorite mentors has always said that there's a very fine line between manipulation and influence. Ooh. And essentially they are the same thing, but they have a different feeling state in your body. And you said it really well, where it's when you're using manipulation or you're using influence, we could even call it, it must be for the greater good of all. It must be from a very wholesome part of you where it's a gift to the relationship. And therefore it benefits both parties at hand. If it only benefits you and there's a winner and a loser, it's going to create a karmic loop and it's going to come back and bite you in the butt.
Yes. I love that. That's so true.
Yeah. So we could call it, if manipulation is a word that doesn't sit well with you, we could call it influence, and we could also call it a gift to the partnership. And really the way that me and Natalie think about it is those 3 ways of thinking about it, they're all the same. Manipulation feels a little bit spicier sometimes, and we like to be a little spicy in play.
It's true.
Yes, it is true.
I have made jokes before with Preston, like, hey, is there a way I can manipulate you into giving me this thing I want? And it's like such a spicy way of making a request.
It is, yes. And we'll get into the body language that you can use while you say that request in order to slide it in, where it won't feel like a threat, which now we can tie that to, you wanted me to talk about the fight or flight.
I love how we're talking about sex and you just said slide it in like it was no big deal. And
yeah,
I was just like
total
snickering.
Pun intended. Yeah, we're feeling it now.
And there is wine involved in the podcast, you guys.
Yes,
this is a big glass you gave me.
It's giant.
That's what she said.
Yes.
Alrighty. Wow. So we were there was something else I was going to say, but did you talk about, you didn't talk about fight or flight yet, sorry.
Well, I wanted to talk about what play, a state of play does to fight or flight. So when you're in a trigger, we'll call it in a partnership, you're in an emotional trigger, what happens is your body's reacting to that emotional trigger the same way as if a tiger would come out and attack you. Your body produces fight or flight and fear because it feels as though its life, its survival is being threatened. And so when you're in an emotional trigger, the same thing happens. And there's a certain biochemical process inside of your body that literally shuts down your visual cortex. It shuts down all of your 5 senses, and it causes you to only focus on the threat at hand. So what happens in body language when you introduce play, you're deactivating fight or flight, you're relaxing your 5 senses, you're relaxing your visual cortex, and you're opening up more possibility. You're activating the part of your brain, your neocortex, that can actually rewire itself really quickly for new patterns. And you want to do this in relationship because if you're caught in, I get triggered, we fight, it leads to unsafety, and then we don't want to have sex, and then the polarity goes down, and then the relationship's screwed, and like all of these different things, you can actually hack that shit really quickly through play because it literally activates the part of your brain that's needed for rewiring patterns and shutting off fight or flight. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind as we go through these 3 things that we're going to share with you.
Yeah, there's so much here. I feel like we could talk about this for many, many hours. So I'm very grateful that you're here. But I know that when I started understanding how important play is inside a conflict, not as a form of like, what's the word? Like not in a gaslighting or dismissing kind of way, but like if there is space for play, it also like one thing that you said earlier when we were out to dinner was like how it opens us up to learning. Like if you're in a school environment and your teacher's shaming you, it's really hard to learn. But we learn a lot more quickly through exploration and play. So if you feel like there's not something wrong with you, like if you feel like everything is right with you, you're going to be more open to learning. And so think about like when your partner's doing something that you don't like them to be doing, to be able to convey that in a way where you're not blaming or shaming them is going to make them more likely to actually see you and what you want without blaming themselves or you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. We were saying at dinner, it's because the play allows them to self-reflect to the extent that they actually possibly can, rather than not being in play, being in fight or flight narrows their willingness to self-reflect and to change patterns and behaviors.
Yeah. You said something about like being in play is the highest form of like consciousness. What did you say? Do you remember?
I think it's the highest form of learning.
Highest form of learning.
Yeah. And
being in play.
And I spoke to it because when you're in play, it activates the most intelligent, the very human part of our brain, the frontal cortex, the neocortex. It's that the very human part of us that can actually consciously rewire in and hardwire in new programs, but we must be in a state of play in order to do so.
That makes me feel so sad about like our current school systems.
Yes.
And like the way that we're learning and like shaming and grading and all these things. Oh my God.
It's sad, yeah.
It is sad. I never felt safe in school. And so I feel like everything I learned was not in a safe place. And now wow. Another topic, another day. So when we were planning out this episode, you guys, we were at the dinner table and Katie like leans over to me and whispers, "Oh my God, you and I should start you know what kind of podcast we'd be great at? Which one was it?
And then I squirted in my pants. I'm not kidding.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh so loud. The red bars on my Audacity app are going crazy. Like, stop laughing so loud, woman.
I got so excited and I was like, Natalie, we should have a podcast where we watch people on first dates and we depict them and we pull them apart and in a loving way. In a loving way, because we care about relationships and we want them to succeed. But
our shadow would be this.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. And just watching, I mean, you know, Natalie with her experience of just relationships in general and my experience of body language and micro expressions. And we just had the best time because there happened to be at the bar a nice little couple next to us.
There was. And we looked right over and we both of us started picking up on the same things. And so, I mean, we could just share it right now.
Yeah.
Like what we saw. And that'll just give you an example of how loaded and how fun this can be. Mm-hmm. And maybe, you know, the most important thing is ideally you guys can like listen to this and listen for yourselves and listen for the people you've been dating and like how they acted towards you, and maybe it'll help you understand why you felt a certain way around them, you know? And for the record, this stuff is useful whether you are in a long-term partnership or you've been dating a lot of people. I think you mentioned that earlier too. Yeah. Like if you've been in a lot of relationships or you've been in one relationship, you know, this stuff is about learning patterns both in your help me remember that we're going to do a little quick caveat, but I want you to pull me back to this.
Okay, I will.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
But one of the words you used was programming, identifying our programming. Mm-hmm. Not everybody in this audience knows what you mean by that. What does it mean to have unconscious programming?
Yes. Okay. So unconscious and subconscious programming is basically referring to the time in your life when you were actually in a brainwave state where you were basically just downloading everything that you saw in your environment, which is between the ages of 0 and 7. So between the ages of 0 and 7, you have little to no discernment about what quote unquote programs and patterns you're downloading. So for example, if you see your parents fighting, you know, between this age frame, and your mom, let's say, backs down and becomes codependent and doesn't speak up, then you're going to watch that and your computer nervous system is basically going boop, 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 boop. Great. That's how relationships are. So it's not necessarily looking for like, wait a second, is there a higher form of relationships? It's just going, great. Well, this is working well enough. We're all alive here. So I'm going to record that and then sort for that. So those become your neural networks. Of course, as you're watching this as a young child, you're also placing meaning on it of what that means about you. Those also become your programs. Then you grow up into adulthood and you're actually not really experiencing anything new in adulthood. What you're experiencing is the programs and patterns that you experienced in your past because your neural networks are programmed in order to sort for it in your external life. So there's a part of you, not a conscious part of you, but a subconscious part of you that actually doesn't care about experiencing good or bad things. What it cares about is having a match between how you're hardwired on the inside and does it match what you're experiencing on the outside. And it's constantly seeking relationships, friendships, patterns, partners, relationships with food, relationships with sex, basically everything in your life that match how you're programmed on the inside. Wow. So that's what I mean by patterns. And we as human beings, we run 95% on automatic. So you might think that you're in control of your life and your day-to-day decisions, and you're actually not. You're running on these patterns. But the good news is you can change those patterns through self-awareness, and we'll draw it back in one yummy circle to play, because when you play and you love yourself and you love your partner and you experience love and you experience play, it allows the space, not only biochemically because it produces oxytocin, but also the space inside of you to rewire those programs way quicker than if you were to like work hard and be stressed out about it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and also this is why like it ties into the work that we used to do. And especially you, because when you were doing like food work,
Yeah.
I mean, so much of your clientele was like trying to stop binge eating through willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And like that shit does not work because you're only working with it sounds like you're saying that you're only working with like your conscious programming, like what you're aware of that you're aware of, as opposed to what you're not aware of, what you're not aware that you're not aware of.
Yes.
Your unconscious is I think it's like what you're not aware that you're not aware of.
Yes, exactly.
And now we're taking it from what you're not aware of to what you're aware of.
Right.
And so the only way to change a pattern is to first identify that it exists.
Exactly. Awareness. Exactly.
How can you change a pattern that you don't know is there?
You can't.
So you have to first be like, oh, I learned this from somewhere and it's been running on autopilot. And actually it doesn't have to.
Right.
The analogy that I use is like snow chains. Like when you're, I use this to actually describe trauma in a way, which trauma is programming. That's like
absolutely.
That is what trauma is programming. Yep. But it's like if you were driving a car in an icy environment, you would put snow chains on your tires so that you don't fly off the icy cliff. Mm-hmm. But then, and that like helps you survive.
Totally.
But then once you drive off the snowy mountain and you're now driving through the desert, the snow chains are going to make your drive really, really bumpy. Mm. And you're going to think, if you don't ever get out of the car and examine your car, you're going to think, wow, I must be a really shitty driver. Or this must be a really shitty car. And it's like, no, you're fine. Your car's fine. You have snow chains on that you put on like 10 years ago. And that programming is still running. Mm-hmm. And you have to actually see the snow chains before you can take them off.
Yes. I love that example. That's
it's a perfect. Good one. I'm so smart.
You are so smart.
Thank you.
I'm going to use that example. I love it.
Just give me credit. It's all good.
I will.
Okay. Because I feel so smart.
Yeah. No, that's a great one. It is really palatable.
It is. The snow chains analogy has been very helpful.
Yes.
Because there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Never has been.
Never. There's never has been.
Never been anything wrong with you.
Right. And that's what play allows you to enter.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yes.
So the point that I was at before this was just talking about how, I'm so glad I came back. Whether you are single and dating, you'll be able to, first of all, you'll be able to access sides of yourself and play with different sides of yourself. You'll be able to, you'll be able to identify stuff that could be going on inside your partner, and you could bring it to light. You could make it, aka make it conscious. Say like, I noticed XYZ, and we'll cover what kind of things you could cover. Or you can also use this stuff to evoke a side of your partner. So like if they're in a fight or flight, you could shift something about your body language and actually it sounds like you could create safety for them. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right? So, and they don't need to know that you're influencing the dynamic, because again, it's all about offering the gift to the interaction. So whether it's a new person you're dating, and you're playing with them, or maybe you've been, like me, and you've been in a 10-year partnership, or even a couple years, and you guys are in some kind of stuck patterns, and you could literally just do something slightly different, if it sounds like, with your body, and that could change because most likely not only do you have patterns with your words, but you probably have patterns with your body.
Absolutely.
And you can change. Those might be, in a way, easier to change, Anyway. So cool. I'm so excited.
Yes.
So we were let's talk about the couple that we saw.
Yes.
Just to give you guys an idea of where we're going. So when we looked over at the couple to our left today, what did we see?
So the main thing that we saw was their ventral body orientation.
Man and woman.
Man and woman, ventral body orientation.
What does that mean?
And I'll explain that. The ventral body orientation is basically the midline of your body. Where is it facing? And they had sat down, it seemed like not long before we had, and the man was facing straight towards the bar, and the woman was angled, her midline body orientation was angled at him. So already right off the bat, we would know that she is more emotionally invested into the conversation at that point.
I'm like biting. I have like one of those lip, what are these called? Like it's like a hangnail, but it's like a lip hangnail. I'm like biting it off awkwardly and it hurts. Keep going. Sorry.
And so that was the first thing that I noticed. The second thing that I noticed, and this was more of a face reading quality, but the man's eyes, he had a little bit more of the whites showing below his eyes than he did above his eyes. So he was just slightly in his head. where she was leaning in, she was engaged, she was reaching, she was wanting more engagement from him. And he was operating from a place where he was responding, but he wasn't embodied. So there was a disconnect. And what was funny was we noticed over the course of our dinner, she actually turned the midline of her body until she was perpendicular facing him. And he did not change one bit.
Yeah.
He stayed absolutely straight. And so that's a microcosm, probably, we could assume with 99% accuracy, that that's a microcosm of their relationship.
Yeah. And so she was, I wonder what she was trying to do.
Yes. She was most likely trying to fill a need inside of her, which then puts her, speaking in terms of polarity, puts her in her wounded feminine. It's that needy. And it's not that having needs are bad, because we all have needs. But we can fall into the negative, quote unquote, category of needy when we're running subconscious programs and patterns to try to, outside of our awareness, manipulate to get those needs met. It would have been way different if she changed her body language, became conscious of her needs. I need to be heard. I need to be seen. I need to be validated. I need to be loved, whatever it is, and either spoke it or used play to engage a space that invited the man into meeting her needs.
Yeah. But instead, I remember watching this. Instead, she pretended she wasn't needy.
Right.
She just leaned in a lot, and her voice almost seemed like I listened just a little bit. It was a little high-pitched, like, so, like, so. And it's just like constant filling of the space.
Yes. Exactly.
Like almost like sending out, like calling your partner and waiting for them to pick up. Like that was her energy. Like calling, pick up the phone, call.
Right.
And then he wouldn't pick up the phone.
Right.
And so when he didn't pick up the phone, she kept calling even more and more frequently. And so until her body literally was like completely turned away from the bar.
Yeah.
And also I remember her body language. Oh, this is so interesting. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. Her body literally like moved in and like almost collapsed into the center of the space that they shared, and he was still completely upright. In tango, this happens too, where a woman completely collapses and then she resents him for collapsing under her weight.
Right.
So energetically, she was like dumping onto him, and so he's like, probably. Not that it's wrong to want, not that it's wrong to ask, but she's pretending she doesn't have needs,
right?
But her body language is screaming.
Yes, and it's that dichotomy, it's that internal war, it's that discrepancy between our words, how we're acting, and how our body is acting. It creates a lack of autonomy. The experience of who we are as a person is not whole.
Right, because she doesn't give herself permission to want fully. Exactly. Almost. That's what I'm interpreting.
Yeah. And it really, in that situation, which probably brings us into point number one, is that it would have been far different for her as the feminine creature in that interaction to actually pull back her energy, fill her own cup by first bringing that awareness into what do I need? And she might just need to have been seen, or to feel sexy, or to feel wanted, or to feel desire, right? These might be her needs, to bring awareness to that and to actually in that moment become that overflowing cup of that. Because what that does for a masculine being, the masculine needs autonomy. They need stillness, right? They need more of that freedom typically. So if she becomes that, she actually opens up a space that invites him in, rather than kind of manipulating and trying to reach in and grab it from him. Masculine beings don't like that.
Yes.
They don't like to be manipulated in that way. However, if you can do it consciously and through play because you love them, and it's known and they can feel it, that it's coming from love and it's coming from playfulness or it's coming from sexiness, then it's a whole different story.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
I love that too.
I love being consciously manipulated.
I love being teased.
Yes.
I just asked for it the other day with a lover.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, I love your lover stories.
Yes.
Look at us. I'm so proud of us.
I know.
I actually wrote this on my notes. Look at us. We're so proud of us.
Yeah.
We were at the Four Seasons. It was very posh and wonderful.
Yes.
So We're going to give you 3 instances, not so much tips, but like examples of ways that you can increase your polarity through body language. Do you want to start? You just want to go into it?
Yes, absolutely. So the first one we have written down is one thing that...
Yeah, if you have like a woman who is like... I mean, it's kind of like what we were saying at the 4 Seasons, where if she's kind of like waiting for him to make her feel a certain way.
Oh, I remember. Yes. Okay. Yes. So one thing that you can do posturally through body language in order to increase polarity is to actually decide to feel sexy yourself. This massively increases polarity. So what you don't want to do, what we have written down, is you don't want to pry and wait for your partner to make you feel sexy.
Or a certain way.
Yeah, we're using sexy because we're talking about polarity. But yes, to make you feel a certain way. And especially with sexiness, one of my favorite quotes, and I think it's from, I totally mess up her name, Ashay Sundra, is that how you say
her.
it? Yeah, is that how you say her name?
I think so.
In one of her courses, she said, sexy is a feeling, not a look.
Oh,
and I love that. 1, because it's true, and 2, because we can work with that. If sexy is a feeling, that means that you can generate that feeling state inside of you at any given time.
And age. It doesn't mean you have to be 20 to be sexy.
Nope. Could be sexy anytime. And you can practice this alone. You can practice this as much as you can, because when you practice feeling sexy, assuming that it is an actual physiological state inside of you, all that means is that when you engage that feeling of sexiness inside of you, it's a set of neural pathways that just runs. You decide to feel sexy, you turn it on, and it runs through a neural set of pathways. The more you practice it, the easier it is to turn on. And then when you're out on a date or you're with your partner and you want to be in a state of polarity with your partner, you engage those neural pathways. You decide through awareness in your mind to turn on that state. And when you do, you naturally feel sexy. And the really cool thing is if you want your partner to also feel sexy because you want to be in a sexy, polarizing relationship, the fastest way to make another human being feel something is to radically and powerfully feel it yourself. Because nervous systems, meaning the neural networks inside of you, they have a silent, nonverbal communication with all other nervous systems around you. This happens beyond our conscious awareness. Yes. Nervous systems talk to each other.
That makes sense.
And there's a hierarchy to them. And people don't like this, but it's true. There's a hierarchy to them.
What is that?
A hierarchy meaning that, when 2 people are together and we each have a nervous system, the nervous systems are actually competing for hierarchical states. So the more powerful nervous system state will win out and the other person will follow. The other person will mirror. And so if you can actually generate a feeling of sexiness radically enough inside of you, and you are pumping it through your neural pathways, and it's strong enough, and you have hierarchy in a date situation, your partner will feel the same because their nervous system will follow.
So I'm guessing, just to take a little caveat to make sure I understand, because I've never heard this, and that's freaking fascinating. It also makes sense based on a lot of interactions I've had. It also sounds a nervous system hierarchy, basically like the strength of a person's, like the intensity of a person's feeling state in a way is probably connected to their nervous system hierarchy. Yeah. So it could be like if someone is extremely, I don't want to say high vibe because that's like, but maybe if someone is like extremely positive and like authentically positive, and is very committed in a way to that energy, other people will gravitate towards it. Whereas if someone's in a really negative energy and they're even more committed to it, everyone will kind of pull to that. Yes. So it's almost a competition of like who's more committed. Yeah. Not even consciously committed.
No,
but just like,
it's not conscious at all.
It's not conscious. It's like the person who's more consciously committed, or the person who's more committed, consciously or unconsciously, I guess, to a certain... I'm going to use the word vibration because it makes the most sense. Do you have a better word?
State. But vibration works too.
No, state is good. Okay. I would love something less woo-woo sounding. Okay. Because we're talking nervous systems. Yeah. But we're also talking nervous systems and spirituality, which is so cool.
Absolutely.
It's cool. This stuff is so connected. So like whichever energy or state is more committed and intense, they're going to win out and people are going to almost match it. It's almost like in a way, music. Like if you pluck guitars on a string, they all start vibrating in the same way.
Yes, it is exactly that. In fact, there's YouTube videos with metronomes that you can look up.
Yeah.
And the metronomes will all sync up eventually.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So
nervous systems also sync up. And if you want to influence the nervous systems, aka humans around you, in dating, relationship,
you lead
or
by
otherwise.
example.
Yeah. And you cultivate it. You practice when you're alone being and feeling sexy. And it sounds ridiculous, but I can't tell you how many times I've walked around my home in high heels and naked because that's when I feel sexy. And but I will bring my conscious awareness to the feeling state of it so that it builds those neural pathways. I can turn it on whenever I want.
I'm gonna need to walk around naked in heels.
Yes. Or however it makes you feel sexy.
I need to...
I might just be a weirdo. I don't know.
You are a weirdo, but
yes.
we like it.
Thank you.
Right now I'm staying at my mom's house because we're visiting from Colombia. I can't do it.
Yeah,
Or I guess I could. It just will be weird.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not doing that. Anyway, I told you this podcast would be weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so in essence, number one, don't wait for your partner to make you feel a certain way. Find it inside yourself and pull it out.
Pull it out.
That's what she said.
And then put it in.
And then put it in.
And then pull it out again.
Too much. No, we'll keep that.
Okay.
Keep that one.
Okay.
Katie's like, can I talk about this? Can I talk about this? I'm like, that's fine. Okay, number 2.
Yes. All right. Number 2. This one is actually probably a lot easier to do than number 1. So I gave you guys a little bit, one that was a little bit more difficult to begin with because it actually requires practice. This one you can turn on any time. Literally. Yeah, Natalie's doing it right now. You can't see her. She's very hot right now.
My pants are unbuttoned because we just had dinner.
We had food. I'm in my pajamas.
Sexy.
So number 2 is asymmetry, meaning being asymmetrical with your body language. And I love the reason behind this. So the reason that this creates polarity is because if you can imagine, I want you to think about all of those old time Disney movies and the wicked characters, you know, the bad guys in it, like the witch that was hunchback and she kind of limped, or, you know, the bad guy that had like a crooked face and like one eye was bigger than the other and he was like all tilted to the left and one arm was up, you know? So these characters, they're very bad. They're very, very wicked and bad, right? But it's a lot of badness. However, just the right amount of crookedness is very sexy because it's asymmetrical. It's wicked. It's bad. It can be a turn on. It's interesting. It's novel, right?
So it's not predictable.
No, it's not. There's uncertainty in it. You don't know what's going to happen next. And novelty generates focus, meaning anything new, anything that you're doing that's new will cause the people around you who think that they know you to really focus on you. So if you
because you're interesting.
Yes, exactly. That's what our brains do. It's like a shiny thing.
Got it. So if you want your partner to be interested in you, be interesting.
Yes. There you go.
Simple.
Done. The asymmetry is a super easy one to turn on. And I love the application of asymmetry. My favorite application of it is actually in partnership, because especially if you're in conflict, it softens your body language just enough. Like if you tilt, you can't see me, but if you kind of put up one shoulder and you tilt your head and you kind of smile, and sometimes I'll create asymmetry. I just did it with my voice. I created asymmetry.
Right. You create contrast.
I create a contrast. Mm-hmm. Yes. I create something different. I create something novel. I soften. I might get a little bit lower, like lower in height than my partner or than who I'm talking to, and put, you know, one shoulder up and tilt my head and create that contrast in my voice. And all that it does is it softens what I'm about to say. Because I'm entering a realm of play. And like we talked about, when you enter a realm of play, you cannot be in full fight or flight and in full play at the same time. It's one or the other. Mm-hmm. So if I'm in conflict and I'm entering that state of play through my body language, then then it doesn't matter exactly the words that are coming out. My partner or my lover, whoever, is going to be able to hear what I'm saying far more because it's not a threat to him. Mm. And then the other application of this is just straight up when you want to turn on polarity and you're on a date. Yeah. Just throw it up. Throw it up. throw it all out, all the asymmetry. And I'll do this. I'll expose my neck. That's asymmetry. I'll put my hair to one side. I'll touch my neck. I'll open up my body language. I'll expose my wrists. And all of that does, it's very open body language. So it sends the signal that my body is open, which is hot.
That is hot.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I love that. I also would imagine it works, like I think you mentioned earlier, it works with kids too.
Yes, it does really well.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I have 2 kids, and when they're really, really angry, I don't ever hover above them because that will trigger fight or flight inside of them. It triggers fight or flight in any mammal or human. What I do is I get lower than them, and oftentimes I'll actually lay down on the ground on my back. I'll expose my belly. I get really into this. And like the like submissive dog when their paws are up. Yeah, I will put my pretend paws up like that. And it calms them down because it creates a safe space, and they can actually then go from anger and then they dip into sadness. Because that's, there's always that sadness or that fear or the shame or the guilt or the powerlessness underneath the anger. The anger is actually just a push away. So you can use it in anger. You soften because you want to allow space for the soft underbelly, the vulnerability below the anger. So you can use, body language in those situations. It works great.
This is like Jedi social skills. Holy shit. Wow. Good for us. Look at us.
Yay.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay.
Yeah, what about number 3?
Cool. All right. So number 3, in terms of using body language to increase polarity, this one, it comes into body language in a sense where it can be very theatrical. So in order to increase polarity, you can actually play different archetypes of the feminine or the masculine role. So I can speak to the feminine because I generally lead with the feminine. At least in relationships I do. I feel like in my work I maybe lead with my masculine. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Yeah.
Me too. When I work, I'm in my masculine.
Yeah,
but in partnership, I try to be in my feminine because I love being taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things we were talking about at dinner in terms of number 3 being using this theatrical play and consciously assigning yourself as different archetypes. Because if you tend to be very, quote unquote needy in the negative sense, you can actually choose to be needy in the conscious theatrical sense. Ooh. And we have a couple different, really, I love these examples so much because this is where I first learned it, is I actually had to learn examples and understand what that was like. But an example of this is I was in the shower with a lover the other day.
Perfect.
And yes.
We're all on the edges of our seats.
Yes. And it was after the shower, and I wanted to increase that polarity because I love this space. Like I love that space of play. And I was like, oh, I can't reach the towel. I'm helpless. Can you dry me off? And it was great because he was like, well, yes, I can do that. I asked him to do something that obviously he could do. And he felt masculine doing it. And I opened up while he patted dry every part of my body.
It's amazing.
And it was great. And it's just that simple theatrical play, because me being this helpless woman, even though I'm not a helpless woman, right. I can play theatrically with my body language in that space and with my words because it gets that need met for drama.
Yep.
For neediness.
There's a lot of I guess misconception and taboo. I don't know about taboo, but what's the word I'm thinking of? The word drama gets a bad rap.
I know it does.
It does because...
But so does manipulation.
So does manipulation. And it's a lot of people are like, I don't want drama in my relationships. It's like, You do. You just want a different kind of drama.
Exactly.
You know, the kind of drama. Because if you have no drama whatsoever, it's very boring. Imagine a movie that had no drama.
Yeah, no one would watch it.
No one would watch it.
No.
And that's why like so many people in the relationship anxiety community are like, I'm so messed up by Disney movies. And I'm like, would you rather they didn't exist? Like you loved watching them. Love is Blind, all these TV shows and romance novels, even though they're fiction, they're fantasy, we love them. And a lot of us are angry that these movies like conditioned us to expect certain things of our love lives, because a lot of times life is not like that. But you got to realize you can make life like that by playing a character in your life. You don't have to only play a character if you're a theater kid. Right. You can be a theater kid in your own frickin' stage of life. I think this is a very Madeline Moonian concept.
It is, yeah.
You know, Madeline Moon just dropped her book, Artist of Love. Did you read it?
No.
You would love Artist of Love.
Okay,
Madeline Moon, just shouting out your book. Yeah, highly recommend. Great. I just finished it like 2 weeks ago. I loved it. And she was saying also, she even recommended that you practice monologues as a spiritual practice.
I love that.
And like practice dialing up the character. Like you can dial it up to 1 where it's just like very subtle, or you could dress it up in full character, full costume, full hair, full makeup, and go to the grocery store as needy little girl. You know, you can dial up the intensity. But it sounds like, you know, you dialed up the helpless maiden. And I've used that one too. Is it manipulative? Yes. Is it fun? Yes. Does my partner like it? Yes.
Is it a win-win for everyone involved? Because if you have kids, they're going to benefit because your partner is going to be happier and the relationship is healthier.
It's fun.
Yeah,
fun. It's like, I've done that too, where like there's no toilet paper in the bathroom, and I'm like, Preston, oh my god, and he's like, what? I'm like, we're out of toilet paper, and he's like, oh no. And then he gets to come in and save me. Yes. It's like, of course I can go get toilet paper.
Yeah.
You know, of course I can open the door for myself. Of course I know how to do. Of course I can do pretty much anything a man can do. Of course we can.
Of course.
But we don't want to.
Yeah.
So it's like being able to play these roles that you want. Like give yourself permission to take these things that were previously unconscious manipulations and turn them into conscious kind of influence.
Yeah.
In a way that really benefits the partnership. I am like, I don't know if it's the wine or this conversation, but like my body language has gotten more oozy.
It's so oozy.
It's really oozy right now. It's really delicious. Yeah. So, so good. Yummy. I wish there was a way for us to like get feedback from our audience right now.
Let us know. I'm still on Instagram, so message me and tell me what you think.
I
want to hear from you.
My Instagram exists. And I'm on it like once a week. But yes, send me an email. Let us know what you thought of the podcast. Is there anything else you want to add? I'm going to ask you like where we can find you in just a second. But okay. Is there anything else that you would add?
No, I mean, the only thing that I wanted to add on to the theatrics in play number 3 is, does your audience have kids?
Some of them I'm sure they do. Some of them are married with kids, yes.
Okay. Is that it works really, really great with kids. Like if I'm trying to get out the door, it's a big difference between me saying, okay, kids, it's time to get out the door. And they're like, you know, for school.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, where I might slam down on the on the table and slam the table and be like, and put on a British accent, kids, there's a flood coming. Quickly grab your backpacks. And they're in the car in 2.5 seconds. Done. Play. Theatrics.
Yes. And it's also fun for you, and you get to like who you're being.
Yeah.
Because that's part of the shitty part of when you're in a really nagging, codependent, ugly dynamic is like your partner doesn't like who you're being, and you probably don't like who you're being either. Yeah. It's like, I don't like being the nagging, discontent wife.
Right.
You know, I much prefer play. I was telling Katie about an instance. I'm not going to go through the whole story, but there was an instance where like my towels kept going missing when I was living in Colombia, or Preston and I were living in Colombia, and I like sat Preston down. I was like, Preston. And what was actually happening is Preston was using all the towels and like putting them in annoying places. And like I never had towels in the way that I wanted to find them. And I remember like being like, Preston, we have a problem and I don't know what to do about it. And he's like, what? And I was like, I think we have a ghost. And I was like dead serious.
It's so good.
I was like, every night I put the towels in the bathroom so that I can use them when I shower. But in the morning, they're always gone. I don't think our Airbnb house knows. And then he was like, that's insane. He's like, I will fight them for you. Yeah. And the towels were always there. And like, that's such a good example of like, you know, sometimes when I have a gripe about Preston, I will spend like an hour thinking about like how I would like to deliver this message.
So good.
You know, how would I like to, what would be the most fun way for me to deliver this problem? And this also really helps you target the problem and not your partner.
Yes, that's so huge. It completely removes the blame.
It takes the blame off completely. And really a lot of times when our partners are shutting down, it's because they feel like we're attacking them or their character. Mm-hmm. And when you're in play, then you're both involved. And it's not like I'm involved versus you're not. Right. It's like we're both in this.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you pair that with the open body language, the exposing the wrist, the opening up, the softening, the asymmetry, and you're golden.
And for men, for the few men we have out here, do we have any little quick tips for them?
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing going asymmetrical, that's going to be probably, if I'm understanding correctly, a more feminine approach?
No, asymmetry for men is very sexy too.
Oh,
yeah, it can be very sexy, especially, you know, when you're approaching women, when you're sitting, anything. For men, what's really sexy if you want to increase polarity and become more masculine, it's actually about getting bigger with your body language. So it doesn't matter actually how tall you are. It's not like you have to be taller, but actually taking up more space. Ooh. You know, opening up your legs. Don't cross your legs. Don't cross your arms. You know, you can't see me, but like if there's a stool next to you, open up your arm, lean on that stool, because then you have the asymmetry.
Or lean on the wall, or lean on the table.
And put an arm, lean on one side with your arm out and put your other arm on your hip. Make sure you're standing up straight. And then, you know,
lean back and kick your legs out.
Exactly. Like it's like that yummy. Boss CEO on the shit.
Uh-huh. So and stick your dick out.
You get your exactly.
Not literally, but just like feel
metaphorically.
Yes, let exactly it be seen without letting it be seen.
Yes, and men are afraid to do that because of a lot of different movements and things that are happening between feminine and masculine beings right now. They're afraid to kind of be. I think they're afraid to be shut down for that.
That makes sense.
And a lot of times we women, we actually crave that. However, and this is where I work with men, is that it needs to be in congruency with actually how they live their life. Because if they're kicking back with their metaphorical dick out, and they're taking up space, but then, you know, they go home and they're playing video games and their house is a mess and they're shut down and they're not present with their partner, this and that, then that's a massive disconnect. And it will be perceived as arrogant instead of confident.
Wow.
To the subconscious.
That's fascinating. And it makes a lot of sense too.
Yes.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed just I've taken a big interest in like fashion over the last couple years. Just actually more in the last year, I think. And what's interesting is my wardrobe has changed to reflect like the different archetypes that I want to embody. Yeah. Because back when I was a health coach and I taught yoga all the time, like I wore like tight clothes that like pulled things in. Like I compressed my thigh. Like if I had any jiggle on my thighs, I would want to compress, hold it all in, tuck in your belly, pull your yoni up, like, you know, and squeeze my boobs and push them center and up, and like tie my hair back, and like even just like my makeup, and constantly focusing on like contouring it properly, and like slimming and like, and when I wasn't that, I wanted to look like a business person, so I wore like everything was super symmetrical. I wore like only core colors, like navy blue or navy, white, black, and tan, and gray, and things that like always work together, which is like a beautiful wardrobe, and it worked. Totally. Everything works with everything. I wouldn't dare to have anything that was like an accent piece, aka an asymmetry, in my outfit. Like everything had to be symmetrical and work together really well, and I would never have anything that would like stick out. And I thought that was like super authentic. And that was a time in my life when I was like, I really wanted to become more of a CEO. And so I dressed like that. But now I'm like starting to like go for brands that like throw you off in some way. And I love having asymmetrical pants, or a skirt that has like something asymmetry, or wearing something in a way I've never worn it before, or like even a little asymmetry in my hair. Just like, and like I can see now that it's that desire to create polarity internally,
Right.
and also to polarize the world, polarize me between the world.
Yes.
You know? Because people stare at you a little more and you get,
I love it.
It's interesting.
Absolutely.
As I wear like a white shirt and gray pants.
Yeah, but it's also...
But my earrings are kind of...
I love your earrings.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a naked lady, y'all, with flowers.
I love it.
But
yeah.
Anyway, you were saying.
I was going to say, I love how your style has changed over time, and how you said it creates polarity between you and the world. It creates contrast. And I want to speak that in a different way because it's so good. I want to make sure that the audience really gets that, because this is a huge part of it.
And you're also stroking my ego, so thank you.
Yes, I love stroking your ego. Yeah. Is that you are defined as a person. You've dropped into, in the last year or a couple years, a deeper sense of self. And so your authenticity on the inside is reflected in your clothes, and it naturally creates polarity because you're actually living as who you really are. You're living as who you're meant to be.
Right.
That in and of itself creates polarity in the relationship, because you're not in a codependent pattern of abandoning yourself to match your partner. That's going to kill polarity.
Right.
But if you're radically you, and you have your own style, and you have like your own vibe and your own thing, and you live it and you breathe it and you hold it, that's hot as fuck.
Yeah, it is. I've also, you know what I've also done, because you can do this from the reverse also. Like you can express yourself from the inside out, where you find a part of yourself that's there, and then be like, okay, I love the word impulse. Like, what is the impulse that this inner part would act out? Like if this part of me were to go shopping, what would it reach for? So I love the word impulse because it requires you to be very embodied, and you don't think about it so much. It's like a reaching for something that's beyond what your brain could think of. But I've also done it in the reverse. I wonder if you've done this, where I would like to embody a certain part that I currently do not really have. And so I go shopping as almost like pretending. So it's not authentic yet. But I'm like working on bringing that side of myself inside.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is kind of like, I guess a lot of spiritual people would call it like manifesting. It's like, okay, if you don't know how to, I guess that brings me to the question is like, if you're a man and you're trying to become more confident, would you would want to do some like inner subconscious work.
Absolutely.
But I would also imagine that occasionally practicing holding these postures in your nervous system and getting comfortable with them would be very helpful, even if it feels a little inauthentic in the beginning.
Absolutely. And you need both sides. You need what we're speaking to the inner work of diving into the places that don't currently believe that about yourself. And this is true for men and women, no matter what you are becoming. The parts of yourself that don't believe it, and then feeding into and buying into and practicing holding that state of who you're becoming. So you have to do the
inside
work
out and then the outside in.
Exactly. You need both.
Yeah. So good.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for being on here today.
You're so welcome. That was so fun. I could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Literally.
I know you could.
Yeah.
But so could I. This is so freaking interesting.
We could talk for hours.
Yeah. And we will continue after I turn off this microphone. This is going to be so exciting.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for coming on today. Where can we find you?
So the best place to find me right now is either on TikTok or on Instagram. TikTok, I post more content for men. On Instagram, it's more personal stuff, get to know me, about my life. And I also have a really great, if you go to the link in my bio on Instagram, I have a free hypnosis called Rewired and Inspired. And it's a lot of what we just talked about at the end, about really becoming who you're meant to be, to break those patterns of codependency in the hypnosis, which is basically like a meditation. It's not like you go anywhere too trancy. It's basically just like a meditation of imagining who is the next level version of you, who maybe, doesn't have relationship anxiety, who's in a loving partnership, who's having a great sex life, who loves their body and loves their life, or, whatever it is that you're really desiring, and downloading from the subconscious part of you how it is that you actually get there. And then taking that into your life and actually creating it. And I've had, from actually that free hypnosis, I've had a lot of really great results, and people message me, holy shit, my entire life has changed from that one thing. So it's my gift to you. Use it well and with integrity because it works. Quickly.
Careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Yes, I don't doubt it. Katie has changed my life just being in it.
Yeah.
I've had her for 5 years. Imagine that. What that's done for my life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much again.
Yeah.
You didn't, I don't know, did you mention the name of your Instagram?
Oh, Kate Colley. Yeah, sorry. It's my name. Kate Colley. It has 2 underscores, Kate _ Colley. But if you type in Kate Colley. Yes, Kate, Kate, and then Colley is Kali.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today. I love you.
Love you.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. Have a beautiful day. If you love Anxious Love Coach, please leave us a review. Every month, I will be choosing one review, posting the username on my Instagram page, and offering that person a personalized voice message response to any question of their choice via private message. Thanks for listening to the Anxious Love Coach today. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a review, and follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Please also subscribe to my email list at anxiouslovecoach.com as I'm trying to reduce my reliance on social media. In exchange, you'll receive my free relationship anxiety meditation and a ton of information that I won't share to the general public about my personal challenges and learnings within relationship. If you would like to work with me and or my co-coach, head on over to my website and click Start Here. Thanks for listening and catch you in the next episode.